Hey, what's up? Justin here, and welcome back to 65 Drums. Today I'm going to show you how to edit your drum covers to make them look cooler, be more impactful, and get people watching all the way to the end. By the way, if you haven't watched videos 1 and 2, how to get better sounding drum covers and better looking drum covers, check those videos out. A lot of people start with something that looks crappy and sounds crappy, and they're frantically trying to save it in the video editing software. You're trying to enhance it, not save it. The first thing we need to mention is what video editor to use. There are tons of them out there. Go use whatever the heck you want, but here are some options in case you haven't already gotten one and you haven't learned how to use anything yet. So as far as free programs like the beginner level stuff, take a look at iMovie, take a look at OpenShot, take a look at Filmora, go. This will get you into video editing, learn the language of video editing, and just see how different things work. Once you've made a couple of videos with those, then you can step ahead into the nicer, more professional video editing software packages. There are 3 that really run all of YouTube. The first one is Adobe Premiere Pro, the second one is Davinci Resolve, and the third one is Final Cut. Okay, so step number 2 is getting all of your footage into your laptop. For me, I'm using 3 cameras for this particular video. I have one of these handy little cases, and I just put all of the SD cards inside of it. So let's just import that into the computer really quickly. Okay, so I've dragged in all the video and I've dragged in all the audio. I've made a separate folder for each one of the kinds of cameras that I'm using so I know what I've got. And I've also got all the audio labeled. Drag in this guy over to here. Go to the first camera, drag this onto the bottom here. Go to the second camera, the GoPro, drag that right there. And then go to the ADD and then drag that right there. Don't worry, we're gonna import the song stuff later on, but we're just gonna line up the cameras first. Okay, so if you wanna open up the audio so you can see the waveforms better, just hover over the audio tracks, hold down Shift, and then use your wheel on your mouse to make this larger. Now I need to look for where I hit the drum 4 times. So I should have done this at the beginning, but I didn't remember to hit the drum 4 times until like after my first take or so. But here it is right here on the Canon ADD footage, so I can delete anything before that. And now I need to go find it on the GoPro footage. There it is. So now I can cut anything before that. Actually, I need to drag it 1 frame this way. And now we're actually synced up. Now you might notice that the GoPro and the Canon ADD both have audio waveforms, but the SL2 footage does not. And that's kind of unfortunate, but the reason for that is something is jammed into the microphone input, so the camera thinks that a microphone is plugged in, but it's just not turned on. And because of that, it makes my life really difficult when I try to sync up this footage in post. And by the way, I know that sometimes you can highlight everything and press synchronize, but you can't do that if you don't have an audio track right there. So I'm gonna have to line this up manually here. Just go frame by frame by using my arrow keys. So that's where the first hit is. So the next step you would think would be to start color correcting stuff. So I can drag an adjustment layer on here and now I can adjust the shadows and everything like that. But no, that's not really what I want to do yet. What I want to do first is decide what camera should be active for what part of the song. So we can jump back and forth between 3 camera shots. So as you know, with video editors, whatever track is on top is what's going to be shown through the program monitor. Another way that you can reveal a camera is just by making the transparency different on each video file. So what I'm gonna do is make 2 cuts, one on the camera ADD and one on the Canon SL2. Go over here to opacity and put it to 0. Now I'm seeing through to the SL2 footage, but I also don't wanna see this camera, so I'll set that to 0. And now we're looking through both of these and we're seeing the GoPro footage. So I'm gonna make another cut right about here. I'm going to make this 100 again. I'm gonna go up here and make this 100 again. We're trying to make camera cuts with the natural beat of the song. And then I'm going to switch back over to this overhead shot again. Okay, so that did take a while, but we finally made the cuts for the different camera transitions that we wanted to make here. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating an adjustment layer. Let me show you actually how to make one of those. If you go over here to this box, new item, and then, where is it? Adjustment layer. What this does is it creates like a transparent video. If we type in Lumetri color, there it is right there. Let's drag this effect onto the adjustment layer. So with the Lumetri color effect on, we have a lot of different options here. We can adjust the temperature of the video to make it warmer or cooler. We can adjust the tint of the video. If you didn't get the color correction right in camera, watch a video 2 on how to do that. The tint can actually save your butt. One time at NAMM, I was recording in a certain room which had an overly green tints to it, so I actually had to swing it this way in order to make the footage look good. Exposure, this can compensate for an overly dark image. I noticed that the camera, this camera right here, the 80D, looks decent. The SL2 is a little bit darker, unfortunately. So in this case, we would actually bump it up to like 0.4. You'll actually be making a couple of adjustment layers. I'll make an adjustment layer for each video, and that way I won't have one color correction going across everything at the same time. So right now, with the look that I'm going for, I want to bring more blue into the shadows, and I usually bring up the highlights towards yellow because that's your skin tones. So here I'm going to go all the way over here to blue, and I'm going to start sweeping around until I find the kind of shadow color that I like. So about right there. And now I'm going to bring it more towards the center so it's less harsh. Over here on the highlights, you don't want to go through the exact same color in your highlights. You want to go opposite of whatever the shadows were. So I'm going to bring this a little bit more towards yellow. So I'm going to go find the shade of yellow that I want, and then bring it back a little bit more towards the center so it's less harsh. In the midtones, I'm actually going to bring that a little bit towards the blues as well. About right there. So here, going back and forth, I'm not saying this is the look that you're going for. I'm just saying this is more towards the look that I'm going for, this drum cover at least. The next thing that I end up doing is go over here, and I start bringing in like a little bit of black around the edges of the image. If you go this way, you're bringing white, gives it a dreamy look. If you go this way, you're bringing black around the edges of the image. You can start adjusting like the midpoint. You want to make sure that people don't notice it, but it sort of brings your attention towards the middle of the video. So here's what it looks like when it's off. Here's what it looks like when it's on. Now you might be going for this look, you might not. It's just something that I do for most of my videos. Okay, so we've talked about lining up footage. We've talked about switching camera angles in the beats of the song. And we've also talked about how to color grade your stuff and just make it look a little more cinematic. Now let's talk about adding effects to your videos. You can actually drag in effects that you bought online or found for free online. That's definitely a possibility. But I'm also going to talk about just moving around keyframes and just punching in, punching out, moving from side to side, fake camera shakes, that kind of thing. So let me show you a little clip of this video and explain the different little things that I've done to make it look a little more exciting. And again, it might not work for your style of music, but it works for this kind of music. Okay, let me show you the individual effects that I use to make this. So the first one is right here at the beginning. So right there, I'm doing three things. On the first hit, when I hit the floor tom and the snare at the same time, I zoomed in a little bit. And then when I hit it again, I zoomed in even more. And then when I crashed into my two cymbals, I zoomed out. The next thing that I did was a fake camera shake right there for emphasis. I was out at 100%, and then I slowly zoomed in. I punched out, I made it black and white, and then I punched back in when I hit the cymbals again. All you gotta do is press C, so you have your cutter tool, make a cut right there, go to the next hit, make another cut. Your next hit would be the cymbals, so around right there. Now that you've cut this up, you can just adjust this without messing up anything else. Cut it up into chunks, zoomed in, and then I zoomed out. For the camera shakes, all you gotta do is, let me go to a piece of footage that doesn't actually have a camera shake in it yet. So let's say right at the end of this cymbal hit right here, we wanna have a camera shake. Let me just position a keyframe right here. We wanna start where we are, 960, 540, that's centered. So let's go forward one frame by pressing the right arrow key. Every time we press the arrow button, we're creating another little dot right here, by the way. Let's move this over just a tiny bit, move forward again. Let's move this down a little bit, move forward again. Let's go back that way, move forward again. Let's go up, move forward again. Let's move that way, move forward again. Let's move like that. Okay, we wanna make these little movements. And let's just highlight all these little dots that we have. Press copy. And now, Control V, we paste those. Go to the end, Control V. So now we have all these little dots. Make sure that the last position right here is 960, by 540. So again, you can make it as subtle or as, outlandish as you want. Another thing that you can try is this little shutter effect. So if we zoom in right here, what these are black videos. All you gotta do to create a black video is go over here, create black video, press OK, drag that onto the timeline, and just snip off just a little part of it, delete everything else. Click on it, hold Alt, and then drag over, and you'll create a new one. Depending on how big the black video is, this effect will look different. The bigger blocks, it's more of a heavy look. You'll notice that I did it 4 times because I'm doing it in time with the music. You want to play with the music, not against it. Another thing that you can do is a fake pan from side to side. So this is my Canon SL2, and it's not moving at all. It's just on a standing tripod. So the shot looks a little bit boring. We can make it look a little bit more interesting by having it move from side to side if we feel like it. So let's click on this footage that we're looking at, create a position right here, and move over here, and have another position, all right? So we're going to make this position right here just be like about to right there. Now you'll notice that I can see the footage behind it. So we need to zoom in to cover this up. So let's zoom into 105, and over here, let's actually make the start point right here. And the cool thing is you can actually zoom in slowly and move from side to side. So you're having 2 movements happen at the same time. And again, I'm doing it very subtly there. You can also make it look a little bit more obvious, a little bit more exciting, but that's kind of up to you. So we've been playing around with different like movements and stuff, and maybe some really simple effects, but let's actually make some legit effects. So I'm gonna copy all this stuff real quick for a hot second, Control V. Now this has a folder with all kinds of transition effects. So let's say we wanted to zoom in really quick between 2 clips. So we have an overhead shot, and we're moving to a front of the drum set shot. What if we wanted to zoom in right there? What we could do is, I've got a transitions package right here, and we have a folder called Zoom. If we click on that, let's take a look at Hit. We can sort of preview what we would see. So let's drag this over onto the timeline. With these kinds of transitions, you actually have to drag your adjustment layer over top of everything. So let's shrink all this down and drag this over top. Now with this one, I feel like this transition is a little bit too long. It's a little bit too obvious. Okay, so this is a little bit more what I'm looking for. So let's drag this out onto the timeline and then delete the little footage to show what it looks like. And now this is what it ends up looking like. The reason why I like this transition is because it's really quick, but you did sort of still notice it. Here's a couple of like glitch looking effects. These are a little bit too harsh, but if you can find stuff that looks a little bit more subtle than this, it might be interesting for you depending on what you're doing. This is a little bit weird. It's like an optic zoom in. Now, of course, a lot of effects like this are very much in your face. Depending on what you're doing, you might not even use anything I'm talking about right here, but I do want to mention it for the people that do want to play around with this sort of thing. Okay, so in a second, I'm going to talk about export settings, creating a YouTube channel, that sort of thing. But the first thing I need to mention is that this video is nowhere near finished. It's close, but I need to do a lot of things to polish it up. The first thing that I would be focusing on is making sure the Canon SL2 footage and the Canon 80D footage look a little more similar. So what I would do is actually create several adjustment layers, one for each kind of camera. And I would make it a little bit brighter, and I would jump back and forth between this and this. And then I would right click on it, and I would go to label, and I would just make it a different color. So I know that basically the SL2 footage would be the blue stuff, the Canon 80D would be the pink stuff, and then maybe I'd have a separate color for the GoPro footage. I would also mess more with the audio. If we go over here to Track Mixer, and we sort of make this a little bit bigger, we have room on the screen, And then if we press this little button right here, we have a pop-down menu, and now we can start adding all kinds of stuff. Let's say it needs a little bit more punch to it or something. Let's add a compressor to it. Amplitude and compression, multi-band compressor, click on that, and then select drums. Now this is a preset for drums, and we can still adjust the threshold, the attack, the release, and the gain and everything. Again, you're gonna have to solo it and mess around with it. I don't actually need to have this compressor here, but I just wanted to mention that you can have that. You can put an EQ over everything. You can put reverb. You can do all kinds of cool things inside of video editors. And Davinci Resolves straight up lets you put plugins within the video editing program itself. And again, if I had some in-depth stuff I wanted to do to the drums, I would actually go back over to Reaper and actually change some of the stuff and then re-render the audio there. I always turn my stuff to off because there have been times when I've adjusted audio or something, and it turned out if I was watching it while I was making the adjustments, it was actually keyframing those audio adjustments if it was set to read. So always set this stuff to off. I completely forgot about that yet again. So anyway, let's talk about export options. What you'll want to do is take your playhead, put it at the beginning of the video, right click, and then press mark in, and then go to the end, and then press mark out. Okay, so you've got your video. Now go to File. Now go over here to Export Media. So this window can look a little bit intimidating if you've never used this stuff before, but all you gotta do is run over here to Presets, scroll all the way down to YouTube 1080p Full HD, and bam. YouTube and Adobe Premiere Pro actually work together to create this preset, so the bitrate and everything is optimized for YouTube specifically. If you look around, you can find something for Twitter, something for Facebook, something for Vimeo, literally whatever you want. They've already made a preset for it. All right, so let's assume that you've finished the video and now it's time to make a cool thumbnail so people actually click on the video. Let's open up Affinity Publisher right here. Now, the reason why I switched away from Photoshop is that I had to keep paying for Photoshop my entire life. I wanted to buy something outright. So Affinity Photo was only 50 bucks. I highly recommend buying this outright for 50 bucks instead of spending $10 a month for the rest of your life on something like Photoshop. Now we need to upload it to YouTube. 65 drum covers. This is actually going to be a real YouTube, by the way. Subscribe if you want to go check out drum covers on this channel. Gonna press customize channel here. Just change this channel icon. Let me see here, I'm gonna upload a photo. So for sure, I'm gonna have to customize this channel a little bit more than this, but let's go over here to this plus icon, press upload video. And now all we gotta do is go find some sort of drum cover to start uploading to it. So drum covers, so let's just say I wanted to upload this guy right here. Now it's gonna start processing and all that stuff. It's gonna take a long time, but you get the idea. It's really easy to upload a video like that. And then you just put your thumbnail in there and then hope for the best. Always upload it in unlisted mode and then watch it, make sure it's good, and then press publish. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Go check out that new channel if you get the chance, and I'll see you all in a few.